figuring out the reviews for Corey and Joe. And then we can talk further about any other adjustments.
How are we gonna do them reviews? Last year we did them and it turned out to be a big, massive confusion and it went really nowhere. And there was no raises given out. And it's the same review form, so I don't see how anything's really gonna change.
So what suggestions do we have here? I mean, the starting point would be the forms. Just a chance to add comments.
So, Mr. Mayor, when the council did the reviews, did everyone have a form, or was there just one form that was used just for Corey and Joe, or did all the council and mayor have their own forms?
We all had our own forms.
Okay.
Sorry. So everybody got a chance to weigh in, and then opportunity to discuss. The employee has the option to have it open to the public or not.
And was there one final form, or were there 5 for each in the end?
It was 5 for each in the end, but they weren't completed. There was only 2 or 3
Two, I think.
that were supplied.
Supplied after or beforehand?
No, there was only 2 council members that would fill them out.
They completed them and handed them in.
Okay. Handed them in beforehand or after the review?
Both.
Filled them out and handed them in as part of the review. That was part of the review. Each council person could fill them out and grade the employee based on their knowledge and experience. And I think out of 5 of us, only 2 of them were filled out and actually handed back to the employees for their review, because they're supposed to sign off on them too, and if they have any questions, they can contact us or.
And when that was done after the review session that you had?
So we're given the forms,
Okay,
and each council member was to complete the form, and then those forms would go to the employees, and then there would be a discussion. And of the 5 council members, 2 did that, and 3 chose not to.
okay. So it would seem to me that when the review was done, there should be a final, at least, almost would be a consensus of here's what either there needs to be 5, I would think that after the review is over, you wouldn't necessarily have to have it ahead of time, but after the review is over, there should then be 5 forms turned in.
There should have been, yes.
And you wouldn't necessarily have to turn them in ahead of time, but when the review was over, you could do your final evals and then that was done, that would be done.
Your review was to fill out the form.
Okay.
There were- yeah.
I wasn't there, so.
See, and that's where it kind of gets muddied, because in my opinion, there's not really an official review, in my opinion. You know, I guess, in my opinion, I think the way I would like to see it done is, again, we give every council person the opportunity to fill out the form. We pick a couple of us, and those 2 compile those forms together, go through them together, and then those 2 present and actually do an official review with each one of the employees. based on the input that they've gotten from those forms from the other council members.
It's kinda hard to have just two people do that formal review, then they're gonna be, just questions on one of the other council person's comments, how do they answer that? You can't, cause you didn't fill it out.
I think what they meant was, it doesn't work too well. So do we, being that, four of us were among the 5 last year, are we willing to complete the forms again? I don't know if we ever really got into why some people didn't complete them last year. And maybe some completed them too thoroughly, but
See, I would be,
the idea was to give some objective feedback with some opportunities. Here's what was going well, here's some things to work on. And I think you start with that form, here's the comments from last year. And did they apply themselves to any of that, or did they see that it fit and apply themselves to the comments that were made last year?
Part of the problem is, there isn't one of us that knows what either one of them do every day in the day-to-day routine.
And that's part of what we're trying to get to, and our intention was to have a conversation quarterly. So it wasn't, why'd you do this last year? And I think the real opportunity with the review is not so much what did you do and justify your existence and your pay rate, but to say, how's it going and how can we improve as a city? How can we improve communication? How can we improve the opportunity for them to accomplish more and to explain to us, here's what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And that part of that is that education, because they're doing this 40+ hours a week, and we only see either the complaints or the occasional interactions we have, and then obviously the documents we get. But it's nobody's calling up, or few people call up and say, I just had the most wonderful experience with a city employee out on the roads or in the office or wherever. Anybody who doesn't think they had a good experience certainly makes themselves known. So I think it's an opportunity to say what's working, what could work better, to hear from them and for them to hear from us. Here's what we're seeing, and if we're seeing it wrong, correct us. If we're seeing it right, should that be the way it is? And then obviously giving, the intention when we talked about this last year was to give Joe and Corey an opportunity to share back with us as well. What do you guys think's going well, and what do they think's going well? And really, it's rather than critiquing, it's trying to, and certainly when the things I put on there, that was my intention to say, how do we improve our communication in these areas? Here's what I'm thinking, and what are you thinking? Rather than here's a once a year critique of, you're doing a great job, or, there's some things that aren't going so well. So I really think that this coming year, we should get back to I think at the beginning of the year, when we set our meetings for the year, I think we should schedule the quarterly reviews as part of those meetings, so that it's actually on the calendar and planned for and prepared for, because we had best intentions this year, but we didn't do it. I think once a year is not enough to have feedback, because if things aren't going well, you don't want to wait till once a year and dump it on people. If it's going well, or it could be improved, let's hear it more often. So I think that's part of what we need to discuss is a calendar for next year, what are we going to do in quarterly reviews. This year, I think we, again, for those people that decided not to fill them out last year, would you fill them out this year? What didn't work about the review form last year that we can do something different, so we can give some feedback. And I don't even recall which ones didn't do that.
Mr. Mayor, I was one that didn't, and I didn't have the opportunity to do it, but I would do it this year.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Bryan?
I'm kind of used to, okay, you go into your review, that's not necessarily the time to go through and, okay, this one I'm gonna give you a 3 and you write it down, and this one I'm gonna give you a 5 and I'm gonna write it down. I would kind of assume that that would be done ahead of time, and then during the review, you would have that discussion about, okay, for this particular thing, this is what I gave you and why, if need be,
Yeah, the intention is to do that ahead of time.
to have the rating filled out ahead of time.
And again, something objective about it.
Mhm.
What does a 3 mean? So the form is, give something objective. What are the strong points? And what do you see as opportunities for improvement? And that's really what you're looking at. Here's things I see being done really well. And identify those clearly. And that goes to the employee. So they have a chance to say, I agree with that, or I disagree. You're not understanding something. So that is to be completed ahead of time, given the employees. And then the discussion as a group is, the feedback you got was this. Do you think it's a appropriate assessment of where we're at? Ideally, it's positive. You know,
Based on last year,
ideally. Some of us tend to be fairly analytical. Not intended to be critical.
I'm just saying that last year it didn't go well. But it was partially because some of the forms weren't filled out. There was confusion about not knowing and understanding all our jobs to fill it out. And then there was just a lot going on. So,
And actually, when we it broke down from there, and I remember Joe walking out afterwards saying, that's the best meeting we ever had.
and then we never followed through with anything.
And I think that's, the failure was we didn't put it on the calendar. We intended, and I think it's gotta be like any other meeting, there's quarterly meetings, that is one of the meetings.
Well, there's no reason why we couldn't schedule before a regular workshop or a city council meeting. We start at 6 o'clock and do that an hour before the regular scheduled council meeting.
Yeah, I just think we need to decide that and put it on the calendar.
My only
The problem
challenge,
with that is though,
your time box.
well, it's part of the meeting. It's
But
open to the public.
not if
No,
it's,
it was
no,
closed.
only if the employee
We were out
wants it
waiting in the
to
hall for
be-
the meeting, for your closed meeting to
Yeah.
be done.
The problem we had last
At
year,
that time.
when we had the meeting that Joe thought was one of the better ones we'd had,
Employee reviews was not a closed meeting.
Yeah, it was,
it was.
it was.
It's closed unless the employee
Says no.
decides they want it open.
That's if there's gonna be, a
Disciplinary.
reprimand or disciplinary act.
No, the reviews were
Yeah.
closed last year.
Yeah,
Cause we
we
were out
did
waiting in the
get
hall for the
clear.
meeting to start, cause they went long.
And that was the only problem, is because actually it was starting to go good, but we had people standing outside waiting to come into the.
So that'd be my
scheduled
concern
meeting.
about doing it ahead of time, is now you're time boxing it to a particular amount of time, and
For the review process, but
the
what,
review
what I think what Jeff's talking about, and I agree 100%, is we need on a regular basis to be able to discuss with staff what our expectations are, what they need from us, and vice versa. And again, if we don't do that at all now, it
Right.
needs to be done. And I think that's what I'm saying, is if we quarterly set a meeting for an hour before a regular city council meeting, there's no reason why we can't do that.
okay, the quarterly, not this,
Yeah, not
Review time,
the
Correct.
alright.
the formal annual review. But I think we need to, when we schedule our meetings for the year, say this quarter, whether it's the hour before a regular meeting, get it on the calendar. And then things are fresh and hopefully stays positive.
But what do we do now to get this year moving forward and give our employees a raise and something to look forward to?
I apologize in my missing packet. What was in there?
Erickson,
Erickson and Miller.
Yeah.
Okay, but not the forms that we would fill out like we did last year.
No, because I will just email that to you guys.
Okay, so I think where we start is let's get those forms emailed. Does anybody here have a problem with completing it this year? Okay, so let's get the forms emailed out for you and Joe, and then we can set a time for when they need to be back, how much time you guys get to look at them, and schedule a meeting here for going through the reviews. And again, it can be closed to the public unless you guys decide otherwise.
Schedule a meeting for next month, an hour before the council meeting.
I kinda don't want, I think an hour's not enough for the full review. And I don't, being on the other side of the door.
Let's start with the packet, and then we can decide what we think we need. I think it would be better if we'd been doing the quarterly reviews. It would be, you wouldn't be talking about a year's worth of stuff either, but. So can we start with that, get the review form sent out to the council? And item H, schedule final budget workshops. Are we okay with doing that prior to our December workshop? Anybody gonna have any major changes? Are you here for the December workshop?
I am not.
I was gonna say, I think I may be, I have to go out west again beginning of December, and that's probably the
Well,
easiest.
let me ask, does anybody have anything they think they're going to propose changes on? Do we need another workshop?
For the budget?
To approve the final budget.
Well, the final budget will approve at the December meeting. Does anybody have anything they feel they want to change from what we've drafted?
Were you proposing you're gonna be gone at the workshop portion or the council?
I am gone the 7th.
Okay, so is there any chance of having it right before the council meeting then?
We can, I'm just saying, do we need it?
No,
Does anybody have anything? We've got the sheriff addressed. What else did we have that was open that we were looking at tweaking once we got final?
I went back through it, the majority of my concerns we went through. I mean, there's a tad more tweaking, but it wasn't gonna be
I mean,
significant.
obviously, you were the one that had a bunch of things you wanted to bring up, so.
But it wasn't gonna be, it wasn't significant to make that I could tell that it was gonna make a huge impact. The only other stuff wasn't budget related, it was going through what was the funding things that were left for the rest of the year.
I think with the latest financial report that was just given us, I think we better keep our where it's at, because it's gonna be pretty close by the end of the year here.
It's gonna be
Really close.
All right, so is it fair to say we don't need an additional budget workshop?
I'm okay with that.
Do a final approval in December.
I don't think there's really nothing at this point we can do. There's nothing we can't, unless we're gonna cut the sheriff's contract or cut something out, which I don't think any of us are gonna do, so I think we're
Right.
pretty much set.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I think we don't need an additional workshop, so. I think we're set where we're at. All right,
Just want that removed from the agenda then?
Yep.
Okay.
please. Anything so the reviews, does that need to be on there? I mean, you're gonna send out the form. Anything we want to take from the council items, move up to the consent agenda? Draft discussion, the RCA for administrative citation, we're gonna take that in the, so 1B and 4D come off for December.
Well, 2A can come off.
2A,
Yeah, 2A.
and you revise 2B.
A, 1A,
One.
1A, 1B.
Okay, look at the council.
Yeah, I was
agenda,
looking at
not
the council
workshop.
agenda, not the workshop, so you're.
Oh.
They're different.
Oh, yeah, what, 3A, 3A, 3B,
3B,
4A.
4A.
and actually, back to 3C, we've given her,
We're not really gonna vote on anything, are we?
No.
Yeah, so. Fair enough.
the only thing would be, you know, the park and trail plan going back to the park committee.
So we should just leave it on for that then?
All right,
Well, if you're leaving it on to 2,
I think she's already got the letter done and it's her work's already done.
right, if we're leaving the park and trail to go to the park committee, then just leave 4A on there and to put it back, send it to request that it goes back to Road and Bridge.
You mean 3C?
No,
4A.
4A. For the 5-year road improvement plan.
Oh, okay. Be consistent, yeah.
And then 6B can go up to consent. 6D is being removed.
With the 6B though, given that there's two options in there,
I think we need to keep 6B on there,
Okay.
yeah.
and, 6C, do we, with the direction here, do we need to,
That's table.
Well, 6B, if we all can agree on that
We can.
second location, we
We
can
can,
move up to the
we can
consent agenda.
change it
Yeah.
to just include the second one. and-
second agenda, move it to consent, or second proposal?
Yeah,
Yeah, like I said, that's the one Joe preferred too, so.
All right, so option B, if that was not so labeled, but further east. Was that the consent agenda? The actual staffing policies for warming houses, can that just be consent? Anybody got concerned with this staff getting that information? 6D is moved to December. 6F,
So do you want me to remove 6D altogether then?
yeah. Six F is gonna just be the, get the forms out to us,
So is there,
so there's no action item at this
Action.
point for Tuesday?
And then 6E, would you want that up to consent?
I think so,
yeah.
from what I heard tonight. 6G,
Pick the date already, so that could go to consent.
1A.
consent,
and H is,
and H goes away.
Geez, I picked the wrong meeting to miss.
You miss. Nothing else, I move to adjourn.
second.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Does this matter? Can you find out, so just point that out?
Oh. No, it didn't.
You have surgery on
I had surgery on Monday on my knee.
replacement or just surgery?
No, no Grumbo injury.